Oh yeah.
Oh
Wednesday
yeah, oh
night,
yeah.
7 o'clock. And it's time for the South Carolina Normal Cannabis Conversation. Hey, VP, how are ya?
I'm great. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm bouncing off the walls a little tonight, but
Yeah,
otherwise, good, doing good. Happy to be
doing good.
here. Absolutely thrilled to be here. Oop, although I gotta wear my pride here. I gotta get my
I gotta,
badges
I
on.
gotta get my stuff going too. You even got the shirt on. I think I'm gonna have to set I'm gonna have to have my little T-shirt ready so that I can don it for Wednesday.
And some nights I do that right before the program. I happen to be wearing this out today and stuff like that. Um, but let's go ahead and kind of start with our normal welcome to everybody. Welcome all to the South Carolina Normal Cannabis Conversation. As I already said, it does happen every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And also, all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. Also in here, I like to mention that please follow us on Instagram or subscribe to our YouTube channel, which I don't have the link here, and like us on Facebook. Don't forget to visit our website at scnormal.org. Scroll down through one of the drop downs, find our sponsors, and support our sponsors.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to kind of click out of here and click the next button and say intro and agenda tonight. Do we want to kind of preempt that? I see we have a guest waiting, and I know they're on a limited time clock tonight. Should we just jump
Absolutely.
into it and get to it?
Absolutely. We have a special guest right at the beginning here who's going to give us some
Hey,
updates. He's got the locks. He's
I
got the
got
locks out.
I got the hair trim yesterday. All right,
Yes,
so
sir.
quick
Go for it, cousin.
because I got therapy appointment right now, and that stuff's important. Everyone should do it, right? So, all
Next.
right, so real quick, the Compassionate Care Act for our medical bill, we're having a little bit of a hiccup getting it out of the medical committee onto the House floor. Essentially, there's been some Republicans on both sides of the Senate and the House that are spreading some rumors saying that the support's not there. Don't waste your time on it, blah, blah, blah. They actually had a poll today that it was 9-8. So, again, very close, not a vote. So, we are
Wow.
urging everyone to just essentially call every Republican senator in the state and urge them that we need to get the Compassionate Care Act on the floor of the Senate for a vote before the April 6th crossover. Because
Oh,
once April 6th comes, there's not enough time to get at the House and come back. So because of this, we found this out yesterday. Tuesday next week at 11, we're having a press conference starting at 11:30. I'll be there. We're trying to get as many people there as possible. It's going to be, of course, our first press conference for it. So, of course, if you can't make it, call these senators. It's very just remind them that last year we got it out of the Senate on a 2-to-1 vote ratio, and we haven't changed anything. So why would we lose support all of a sudden? Especially when South Carolina's got other things to think about instead of a very harmless plant. And the other thing, so we got a bunch of events coming for charity purposes. So if you haven't seen this Sunday at the Royal American, we're having another oyster fund roast for the Compassionate Care Alliance. And that's from 4 to 7. We'll have tickets at the door, and then the Royal American will be providing all the drinks and food and all that stuff. We got another guitarist coming in to play music. So overall, great time. The events I'm really getting excited about here. So April 22nd, I was trying to throw a 420 thing. We ended up pushing that event back to May, which I'll get to. So first alert for everybody. We haven't gone public with it yet, but everything's in place and we'll get it all out next week. We are bringing Mike live into the Palace Hotel, which just opened a couple weeks ago, for a lit brunch. So imagine brunch, but like with your favorite 90s cookout, hip hop music playing and stuff like that. It's going to be a real great time. Of course, it's going to be a recommended $10 donation to get in the door. To, of course, raise the money for this. It should be a really fun event. It's something I wanted to do on a monthly basis regardless, but you know me, if I'm having an event, it's all going to charity. And the bigger event, this was literally an idea I had in the shower 22 days ago, and we wrote checks for all the deposits. Again, you first public place to hear about this. May 20th, we are having the One Way Forward Music Festival. We got 10 Charleston artists. All of them are very big and very popular. 2 of them are going to be a very huge, if you're in the music scene in Charleston, it's going to be a huge surprise. I can't talk about it yet. I got to wait for the flyer to come out, but they're doing it again. That's going to be the hint I give you. They're doing it again. It'll be all dayer from noon to 11. Tickets are going to be $65. We have food trucks. It's going to be at the refinery. So of course, the Whale will be providing drinks. Sweetgrass Vodka will be providing drinks. Sweetwater Vodka will be providing drinks. We'll have a couple vendors, and then Marijuana Policy Project, either Kevin or Karen will be coming out. So the funds will be going to South Carolina Compassionate Care Alliance, Marijuana Policy Project, Last Prisoner Project, a little bit going to NORML, of course. And we got the Veterans Alliance for Holistic Alternatives. Essentially, I'm tired. I got tired of these for-profit stoner culture parties last year. And I said, you know what? Let's have one that's like 2 to 3 times as big, and I give all the money away. Let's put South Carolina on the map in the national news that we aren't kidding anymore. We're tired of saying, oh, we're going to be the last state. It's never going to happen here. Let's show the people of South Carolina and the country that we can bring all these different types of people together for a plant that cares, right? Non-harmful. Really excited about all this stuff. I didn't have a elevator pitch lined up for how I was going to present it, but really exciting stuff. And we'll be pushing out all that stuff probably late next week with official flyers and all that stuff and ticket sales. So really exciting stuff.
That is dope. That is snaps for Cody and team. Great job. That is really exciting. Those events that are coming up, and event planning is definitely a beast, and especially when you're trying to get the word out for something. So I feel you on that one.
Yeah,
and
I'm putting a lot of money into this, so please buy tickets.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is great. Obviously for a great cause, and I'm glad that you're able to come through and talk to us a little bit about that. I'm glad that it's on the on our video so people can watch.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but like the reason
do you think
that really got me, because we had our first like committee meeting last week, the reason that it really got me going was when I reached out to Last Prisoner Project and I said like, hey, let's say I was able to fundraise, X amount of thousands of dollars for you. Would you send a rep out to like be there for it? And they said, well, we don't have anyone in South Carolina because, quote, we won't win cases there. And that in itself was just like, how much money do you want to be donated to you? Let's get you a rep here. Why not? So
wow.
There's something else I could say regarding to that event, but yeah, it's going to be big.
Wow.
We're working on like 1 or 2 more even bigger guests, but we're just going to have that as a surprise to the people that come. So a lot of secrecy. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's bring cannabis to South Carolina. I'm tired of waiting. I was just in California on a cannabis vacation, as I call it, this weekend. It was so nice to be able to walk in the store and buy some and walk out, and that's it. So let's do this.
Absolutely. This is great. Thanks, Cody, and all the exclusive gems you dropped right here on the Cannabis Conversations.
Looking forward to getting the details as they come out. We definitely will share them.
Yep. Yeah. So again, Sunday oyster roast, Tuesday press conference, and let me get on here before my therapist says cancel the meeting. So.
Exactly. All right. Thanks,
Take
Cody.
care, everybody.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Cody.
Awesome. Woo! Listen,
folks.
The cannabis supporters are cooking out here. Cooking. Right. That is very exciting. All right,
yes,
cool.
Sir, yes,
cool.
sir. All right. Well, let's see. We kind of what am I looking for? Skipped over intro and agenda here.
I can jump in.
So go ahead and give us a little bit about what you got in mind for tonight.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely an unorthodox intro, but still a good one. I am glad that we were able to talk to Cody about what was going on and what they got right around the corner. We've got events as well, and it's nice to see all of that happening in South Carolina. I think this is exactly what we need right now. So just like what Cody mentioned, if you're just now tuning in, we just had Cody Kellerman on. He was talking about things that are going on with some projects that he's doing, but he mentioned about the Last Prisoner Project and how they don't have a rep here in South Carolina because they said they're not going to win cases. So if you don't know anything about that particular nonprofit, it's a national nonpartisan nonprofit, and they are dedicated to cannabis criminal justice reform. Now, I mention this because a big part of our show today is going to be talking about the, in my opinion, laundry list of recent marijuana arrests that have been going on in Charleston, specifically. So that's kind of right on target with some of the things we're talking about. But first, we'll go to some national news, go into some local news, and then after that, I'm going to talk a little bit about some cannabinoids. So we've been wanting to talk about cannabinoids, I don't know, for a while. Like, I mean, we talk about the news, we talk about the politics here. That's extremely important. There's also some educational components too. And so today we'll try to focus a little bit on some overview of what CBG, which I like to call the granddaddy of the cannabinoids, CBG and CBN, talk a little bit about those. So cooking up something hot. Let's go ahead and get right into some of that national news. Let me go ahead and share this screen.
We're going to do one more thing before you go.
That's right. It's that time.
Before we actually jump into it, folks, we're going to do our first trivia question of the night. As you know, we'll go over the question. We'll ask anybody that may like to comment in the comment section. And we will come back a little bit later and supply you with the answer. This is also, if you'd like to sponsor this segment, reach out to us through our website contact page at scnormal.org. So tonight's category on the first question is TV. For those keeping score, it is a 40-point question. The question is, what 2019 awards show gave nominees cannabis-infused chocolate truffles as a gift? The Grammys, the Oscars, the Academy Awards, or the Emmys? Let me read that back one more time. Category TV, 40-pointer. What 2019 award show gave nominees cannabis-infused chocolate truffle as a gift? The Grammys, Oscars, Academy Awards, or the Emmys? Leave your comments.
These are good questions.
Answers in the comments if you know, and we'll come back and visit that in a little bit.
I do not know the answer to that, so I can't wait to see.
I didn't know that myself. Oh. Pretty cool.
Oh, that's very cool. Real quick, let me jump over to the comments real quick. We got a smiley face from Tom. Thanks, Tom. There's a lot of activity in the house.
Welcome.
What up, Tom? And then we've got Joey.
Oh, Joey's in the house.
Joey's out there in those YouTube streets representing. Hello, hello. He also said hey to Cody. All right, let's jump into some national news. I would say this is near and dear to my heart because we are always talking about, or we've talked about many a times about how the FDA won't touch cannabis, won't touch, especially like CBD, and especially when we've got CBD being utilized in dietary supplements and foods, things of that nature. The FDA will not touch it with a 9-foot pole. And there are some lawmakers who said, hey, enough is enough. Let's get the ball rolling up in here. Let's get some clear direction that we can give different states. And I'm rocking with that. And I really want to touch on that today because I've been waiting for some news like this. I mean, there isn't anything that's been passed, but just the fact that it's being talked about is always valuable. So this headline reads, new bipartisan congressional bills would allow hemp derivatives like CBD as dietary supplements and food additives. So there were two measures that were filed this past Friday: the Hemp and Hemp-Derived CBD Consumer Protection and Market Stabilization Act and the CBD Product Safety and Standardization Act, and being supported on both sides, Republicans, Democrats, uniting, right? Right. This is that's always great news. And I think that hemp-derived products and things like that keep getting kind of fallen to the wayside. And they don't need to be, because hemp is everywhere. People are utilizing hemp. This is this is a real thing. And it feels like in the midst of our conversations about legalization, I know it's something we still think about, but I think that it's easy to get the waters muddied, if you will. So we've got right here one of the Representative Morgan Griffith, a Republican, said the FDA has dragged its feet in properly regulating CBD and hemp-derived products on the market, creating confusion about its legal uses. I'd have to agree with that. Americans need better guidance, and that's why they've introduced these two pieces of legislation, which will create a pathway for regulation in both the food and dietary supplement spaces. There is a piece in here about the FDA. Here we go. So it says, these legislators were talking about what they see firsthand in their own local governments and showing how local governments and small businesses need more guidance. And that is the truth. When you ride down the street, I know down here in the Low Country, when I ride through the street and I see all kinds of signs and neon signs and things like that that are saying Delta 8, CBD, like it's saying all of that sold there. And I have to wonder, is the product legit? Like, and how do we know it's legit? And I start getting a little anxiety because I'm like, how are people going to be able to get that information for themselves? Like, who's making sure that products are staying too legit to quit, right? The FDA back in January, all right, they announced that they would not be creating rules to allow the marketing of CBD as dietary supplements or food items, which is not helpful for us. It's not helpful for anybody. And to me, it really is a dropping the ball of responsibility. Like, it needs to be something that is a priority. So it says that the FDA said, following a careful review of the non-intoxicating cannabinoid, talking about CBD, FDA said it reached the conclusion that the existing regulatory pathways that are in place for other dietary supplements and food additives will not work for CBD. Instead, the agency said that it wants to work with Congress on a new way forward. So if they need action by Congress, and that's what the rest of this article talks about, this bipartisan bill, or the two of these bipartisan bills, are there to help with that. And I agree with that. This is something that I was glad to see this, because the FDA is already looking at other things like cannabis-based drugs. It says this in this article as well. And trying to talk to scientists about how they should move forward with marijuana. If they're going to do all of that, then we need a little bit more guidance, a little bit more know-how on how to properly market CBD products, and keeping the quality standard consistent throughout the marketplace. So it was really good to see this article, and I am hoping, fingers crossed, that we see some action on this. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I would like to see some action on this because we do need clarification. I agree with your comment that it sounds like the FDA is sidestepping their responsibilities. Um, I'm not seeing any explanation on why these same pathways that are used for other, I want to say supplements, why they wouldn't apply. I just think they're trying to obstruct. Is my personal opinion, but yes, it does need to be acted on one way or another, because, as you say, the people need clarification. A little bit of guidance, a little bit of clarification.
Yeah.
Heck, look at South Carolina. You have conflicting information between the 2018 Farm Bill and the CBD laws in South Carolina and the state attorney general's opinion letters. You get conflict between the laws and then, basically law enforcement's interpretation of the laws.
Yeah, exactly. As we run into all the time around here. That's a fact. And I threw Ina's comment on here. Get your federal acts/bills together and decriminalize cannabis. Exactly. I mean, decriminalizing cannabis would also eliminate a whole lot of that. All of that back and forth, unsure about this, unsure about that. I mean, eliminate the excuses. You know, that's really what these bills are going to help to do. Decriminalizing, legalization, eliminate the excuses. It's time. Like, it's time to give direction. Like, Americans are consuming these products. So
Yeah.
in
And
more ways
I
than
had a
one. So
conversation with um, a leader of a local business organization uh, that deals heavily with the food and bev industry,
mhm.
and he sort of related to me that the food and bev industry is hungry for this kind of stuff in Charleston area.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but
Yes.
they do need guidance. They don't want to cross the line. They don't want to jeopardize their businesses.
Yeah.
Um, they're making enough money selling alcohol. Why would they risk their licenses
Right.
if, with unclear rules and regulations on infusing hemp and CBD into their products? Um,
Absolutely.
so, yeah, businesses are looking for clarification outside of just the CBD shops
Right.
and hemp sellers and that kind of stuff.
It's incredibly frustrating when you're asking a question and cannot get the answer. It is. I mean, I know that's a very, like, foundational thing to say. There are plenty of people that are advocating for various things across the United States where they want answers and they're just not getting them. And that is just like, that's also the reason for advocacy in itself, right? Is the fact that we need answers. It makes no sense to not have these answers and to put us in a position to where we're trying to be uh, good curators, like responsible curators of this product, and not receiving guidance for it. And that's a little shameful. And the reason why we need to push for, like Ina said, that decriminalization, because we got things like this going on. This is my next cannabis headline, and this is um, more national. I would say it's in a different state, in Tennessee. I actually had this brought to my attention by Bob Chapman. So thanks, Bob, for letting me know what was going on out there. There was this couple, in short, who had their children taken away from them, uh, ages 7, 5, 3, 2, and a 4-month-old infant who was still nursing. So this is a breastfeeding baby, and they were taken away from their parents because of the fact that when they got pulled over for the tint, they said the dark tint, traveling in the left lane while not actively passing. Okay, this couple was on their way to a funeral. They got pulled over because of the dark tint and traveling in the left lane. And the father had 5 grams of marijuana on him. 5 grams. 5 grams of marijuana, and their children were taken from them. They're still actively fighting for their children to be back in their arms, to be back at home with them.
I want to stop you right there. I want to warn everybody watching out there. I want to warn everybody, be careful of the dangers of marijuana. Well, hang on. Be careful of the dangers of getting caught with marijuana by law enforcement.
There you go. There you go. Because 5 grams 5 grams is what it took. And there's so many questions I have that says, if you got pulled over for dark tint and being in the left lane, how did we get to the point of finding out what was in your pockets? How did we go from pulling you over because of dark tint to now finding out that you got 5 grams of marijuana in your pocket of marijuana? Like, I can't. And then taking the children away. And Scott, you're gonna love this. They're doing this, taking the children away, basing it off of a follicle test, a hair follicle test. An instant hair follicle test performed on the parents at their first court appearance about a week after the children were taken into custody was a key element in the DCS's arguments for why the children should remain in DCS custody, right? But here's the best part. Here we go. However, a Coffee County court administrator speaking to the Lookout broadly about the county's instant hair follicle testing said the tests are inadmissible in court. An expert told the Lookout, the Lookout is the name of the publication, rapid follicle tests are unreliable because they often yield false positives.
Nice. Yeah, those instant tests especially.
So this is a disturbing. This is disturbing. It's disturbing on a lot of levels. One, this is absolutely something, and this is something that Bob Chapman was saying too. Once again, thanks for sending us or sending this to me, bring this to my attention. Is that, and Scott has said this many a times on this program. This can happen right here in South Carolina, and it probably already has. Not probably. We know this has already happened. People
Yes.
have had their children taken away from them because of marijuana. So this is another reason why it is important for us to have those conversations about why we want this to be legalized. Why this is why we're turning up the volume or the pressure, if you will, by having more events that are surrounded by cannabis. You just heard Cody earlier on here. You hear us every week. We're pushing out, being out into the community so that these lawmakers that are saying that there is no support for cannabis, it's not true. It's simply not true. No one wants a story like this right here. No one wants a story like this. And it's
No.
something that's happening to people every single day. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. And these tests have got to be taken out. What in the world? These tests that are, how do you take something that isn't even like, it's inadmissible by your own like court administrator, and yet it's still being used to rip a family apart.
It kind of reminds me of that case, I believe it was out of Florida, where there was some bird poop on somebody's windshield, and they tested it and it came up positive for cocaine, so they arrested him. And I believe the other case was some guy who had just left like Dunkin' Donuts, had some powdered sugar on his shirt, so they accused him of snorting coke because he had powder on his shirt. Um, and it's all. Ugh.
It's infuriating.
It's all driven by the money. These people are
Yeah.
trained to abuse you so that they can hit their freaking quota, so they can get a big piece of that billions of dollars
Yeah.
of the war on drug money that the federal government likes to dwell out to attack the citizens of of the country.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, it gets you revved up. I mean, it does. And also like when you also think about so the race relations also within this too, right? Like this is something that really kind of asks you, like, that's why I said, how do we get from getting pulled over because of dark tints on the windows to finding something in your pocket? How do we get to to that place? How did we
I
even get to
didn't
a place of
read this
searching?
one, but as some of you may know from watching the program, I have this obsession where I get up in the morning, I make my coffee, I put in my earbuds, and I pull out my iPad, and I tend to watch First Amendment audits in or body cam footage of traffic pullovers, especially auditors and stuff like that. But sometimes these auditors are just sharing footage that they may have gotten. And as a reminder, if you ever act with a government official, the police, whatever, always record your interactions so that you have that evidence. Law enforcement will often say, well, our body cams are running. Yeah, well, we've seen sometimes where it can be nearly impossible to get those public records
Yeah.
that you and I have paid them to create.
Yep.
They hide them, they bury them. So always, whenever you can, record your public officials, record your, if you're ever pulled over. Remember, and this is the hardest one, exercise your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent.
Right.
You don't have to tell them where you're coming from. You don't have to tell them where you're going to. But be ready for the danger that they may just say, well, screw this, we're going to violate your rights and we're going to search your vehicle. Never consent to a search of your vehicle.
Right.
And I've seen this happen. They see the edge of a plastic bag where one of the kids ate their peanut butter sandwich and the bag is still in their car seat or something. Oh, there's a plastic bag. I bet you there's drugs in there. And now we've got reason to search your car because we see a bag that we suspect has drugs in it.
Yeah.
That would be questionable. But it doesn't stop them.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I can remember, I don't know if I'm sure I've shared this story at some point in time, but when I got pulled over in Arizona, and it was because they tried to convince me, like, this is very important about this right to like not have to say anything. They tried to accuse me before they even like looked at the car of transporting pounds from California through Arizona, right? And I was like, all right. And it was this whole thing of, I mean, they had me and my husband out of the car, put us in separate cars, and there was marijuana there because we had just came from California, and us just not doing our own kind of due diligence. Like, Arizona had medical at this time, not the recreational yet, right? So they're like, oh, well, you have, how much is in here? We said, well, we already told you there's less than an ounce because here's the receipt. We just got it from over here. Okay, all right. So they keep going back and forth, back and forth. They've split us up. They're going back and forth, one to him, then to me. Then they're doing like a good cop, bad cop. And I got to a point where it clicked in my head. I said, officer, I don't have to answer any of your questions. And I personally said, I was like, you've asked me the same question 5 different ways. My answer is not going to change. And at this point in time, I do not want to speak anymore. That officer got so mad at me. He left, came back, told me, get out the car, told me, he was like, I don't care. He couldn't pronounce my first name, so he started saying my middle name. And he was upset, and I would not say anything else. And he was borderline trying to provoke me to say something, started threatening me with like, if I open up that trunk and you got pounds, you're going to jail. And I said, nothing. Like, I was like, and when he opened up that trunk, y'all, and there was nothing but one suitcase, okay, because of the fact that we were doing a cross-country trip. The next thing they told me, Scott, was, well, you should try, I know you're not from here, but you should try to apply for a medical card so that, you don't have to be ticketed. Wait a minute, what?
We're going to send you to jail for your pounds.
Yeah.
You might want to apply for a medical card here.
Now they're telling me how to cheat their own system. So it was very, very odd, very odd. And just to say really quick for these comments, because I got to get to Tacos. Taco says, hi. Not cool. Earlier talking about the article. The body cam footage, yes, mysteriously disappeared. Exactly. DJ Gamecock, that's true. Dried bird poop tested positive for cocaine. And Taco, I would be laughing at them, and I was. And it was just, it was hard to keep the smile off of my face because of the fact that, one, here was this person trying to convince me of doing something that I wasn't doing. One, so there's the mind games. Transporting pounds, but there's no pounds in here. Like, you're talking about something that doesn't even exist, but trying to convince me. And that is, like, to your point, Scott, about being in a space of saying, it is my right to not have to say anything. I don't have to answer your questions. Even after, and I just want to tell y'all this too, even after having answered questions, you still can decide, I don't want to answer any more questions.
Correct.
And having that
consent to something, and then you can take back your consent. So you might at one point say, I don't care if you take a look in my car, and then you can stop and go, you know what? I don't want you. I rescind my consent. I don't want you searching my car anymore.
I don't
Especially when they
want
start tearing things apart. They get disrespectful of your belongings.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, I like people to know their rights under the Constitution. Hang on, where is it? little pocket
Yeah,
version.
there it is.
I want you to know your rights. And I mentioned the Fifth Amendment. You have a right to remain silent. What combines very well with, and I've heard police officers in some of these, videos that I watch. Well, that doesn't apply. You're not under arrest. It applies. It is a right. It doesn't say in the Constitution, if you're under arrest, you have a right to remain silent.
Yeah.
It says you've got a right to remain silent at any time. And then it follows it with the Sixth Amendment, which is you don't have to be required to answer any questions without an attorney present. So you have a right to remain silent, not answer any questions without an attorney present.
Right.
So now that that if you know these two rights, this flummoxes a lot of law enforcement officers, because they're like, well, you're not under arrest. It doesn't apply. Yes, it does. It doesn't say in the Constitution I have to be under arrest to exercise my constitutional rights.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
you're better off, even the Supreme Court tells you, you're better off not answering their questions, because you have a right not to incriminate yourself. And they are looking for you to do that. They're trying to get you to mess up, say something wrong, incriminate yourself somehow. They separate you so they can maybe try and find an inconsistency in a story.
Yeah. Absolutely. What you're talking about too, about the Taco also says on here, they also do everything they can to disorient someone before they pull them over, which is also not cool. That is also true. Like I don't understand, and this will kind of come in some of these other stories that I'm going to pull up. But like, there are plenty of people. There are stats for this of people who get very distressed when a police officer comes up behind them, even if it's just because they're behind them. They're not even pulling them over. That in itself can be stressful for people. So sometimes when people are reacting in these different ways, add on other layers of things too, race. There could be anything that like people's minds just kind of assume anything of, why is this police officer behind me? There is a lot. There's a lot that
and
can
if
go
you're
into
a
that.
cannabis consumer, people have been shot because police have been so afraid of the smell of that marijuana that they've turned around and killed somebody because of it.
Oh my
God. I
God.
smelled marijuana. I felt I was in danger. I felt fear for my life because I smelled marijuana. I protected myself and killed them. I mean, I'm not shitting you.
That marijuana smell will attack at any time. That is, and one last thing I wanted to say about this follicle test. One of these days, I'm gonna have to. I'll make one of the cannabis conversations where we should just tell stories. We should share stories. I ain't got a lot of them, but the ones that stick out the most to me, and actually the stories that I kind of have are the ones that convinced me when I got off this road trip, this cross country trip. I was like, I have got to actively do something about cannabis laws, because it was the most stressful time because of the fact of the inconsistencies across states about what's legal, what's not. It smells like this, but it's not. Like, so we're definitely going to have to do some story swaps. But I will just say, just like this follicle test, this inaccurate follicle test. Excellent plug there, Scott.
You see where I'm going, but I'll let you finish your point here.
Excellent.
Sorry to cut it too soon.
No, it's fine. But that was great. When we got pulled over in the same trip, we got pulled over by Border Patrol when we were driving through Texas. Texas, by the way. We had just bought CBD flower from a store in El Paso, Texas, like straight up. Like, this is, once again, we had a receipt. We literally just bought it 15 minutes down the street. And when we went through Border Patrol, the dogs jumped at our car. So we got it pulled over. Boom, they go through the whole thing, yada, yada, yada. I'll skip some details. But they got to the point where we're thinking to ourselves that, maybe they're going to we should be just fine. Or, then we start getting nervous because they're taking so long. So then Border Patrol comes in and says, that marijuana is illegal in the state of Texas? And we were like, well, we don't have marijuana. So like, fun fact, but we don't have that. So then we go to explain, no, this is CBD. We just bought it. Like, we bought it down the street in El Paso, like right here. And so my husband says, you could test it right now. It's CBD. And at that point in time, Border Patrol said, if we test this, it's going to come up as THC regardless. It doesn't matter if you have CBD or not. When he said that, it blew my mind. This was before I even joined NORML, actually. So like, a lot of this stuff was very like, it blew my mind that here was this person who was enforcing the law, who was telling me that his test is not capable of accurately telling him if I have a legal product or not. You know how dangerous that is? That's what we're talking about right here. It's dangerous enough to keep families apart. Dangerous enough to do that.
And yet they're still allowed to use these tools sometimes, like these instant roadside tests, which are inherently inaccurate and not admissible.
Right.
But they're still allowed to use that to try and draw probable cause. I don't understand that, because
right.
It's not probable if it's inaccurate 80% of the time.
Right. I mean, it's disturbing. It's disturbing that we don't, like, if there's legalization even in some states, and it's growing, like there's medical marijuana, there's a lot of states that are tapping into cannabis. There has to, you would think that there would be, well, I guess you shouldn't think. I would say it's common sense, but in these places where things are legalized, or they're not worried about testing it, right? But places where it's not, we're kind of getting the short end of the stick here, because it's like, well, I'm gonna use this outdated means of testing, and that'll be enough because I don't feel like investing in what is necessary to say exactly what is what. So I'll play around with people's freedom off of inaccuracies in tests. So
that, and geez, we don't even have enough time to test all the rape kits, but we're going to start testing every little bit of cannabis we find.
There you go. We're gonna, and in my opinion, a lot of times we're kind of fake testing it, or just putting it off and saying like, oh, we'll get to it. Or it's amazing how if something is considered, if someone says that they have hemp, it's going to take forever and a day for us to test it. But to arrest somebody, it's easy. Like, oh, I pulled them off the street because I smelled marijuana. So the headline says what? That they got arrested for marijuana. We don't see anything that tells us, oh, this has been tested. Like, show us your COAs, then, law enforcement. I think that should be standard.
Years. I mean, look at what's going on with that couple who had the farmer that had their hemp field destroyed.
Yeah.
That was 2019. We're in 2023, and they're still not done. It's still going on.
Absolutely. Jumping a little bit forward, I'll kind of skim past these, but I just wanted to. I felt like for the last 2 weeks or so, I felt like I was seeing marijuana like in headlines every other day. And it was incredible to me how many arrests were going on. And a few of these at the Charleston International Airport. And I just want to kind of put that, I just want it to be up front, right? So it says 22 pounds of marijuana, 22.98 pounds of marijuana. You already know what that is here in this state, right? Charged with trafficking, little trafficking charge right there. 27 years old, right? Then you've got another one. Here's another man caught with over 50 pounds of weed at Charleston Airport. Coming through Charleston Airport. Arrests are being made. Now, this is my thing, is like, okay, they got marijuana coming through, but where does this show us that it actually is marijuana. And I feel like being in a state where there are hemp products, being in a state where there is hemp flower, all of this other kind of stuff, I think that we deserve to know that the product has been tested and that they are for sure that it is marijuana. I think that that should
And I
be.
think it'd be a
I think
good
that should,
idea sometimes if the
yeah.
news would actually say, "Hey, hold it. We now have the government and law enforcement side of this. Let's ask the person charged. Let's hear
Yeah.
the other side of the story."
Yep.
And yet you don't see them going after both sides of the story in situations like
Oh,
this.
never. We don't know this person's background. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know. We don't know if they're in the industry. We don't know any of that. We don't know any of that. We don't know what they may be doing. All we know is, boom, they've been arrested. Another one, marijuana active weapons law violation warrant found after man fleeing CPD crashes the car. This one right here is just a mess in general, right? He's got this guy ends up getting pulled over for failure to give signal or improper signal. And then all kinds of things happen. Like he ends up getting in a car accident. He's like on foot. Like there's a couple of things, or not on foot, but trying to flee. And he ended up having like a warrant out and things of that nature, or a violation of probation with a weapon. But this says this is
28
the
grams or
thing.
less.
Right, right. 28 grams or less. The officer began to follow the Jeep Compass and detected the odor of marijuana. Once again, this is the reason why Dion Tedder's bill is valuable. While continuing to follow the vehicle, the officer observed the driver appearing to evade him and drifting left to right in their lane. A traffic stop was initiated. So, what does that tell me, first off? It tells me that you're following because of the odor of marijuana, but you did not pull over because of the odor of marijuana. You waited till a traffic violation.
He made a pretextual stop
There you go.
and said, "Oh, he kind of moved from side to side in the lane, and you know." I mean, is that all it really said? Just side to side? Didn't even cross the line or anything like that.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And then he ended up having 7.63 grams of marijuana. Listen, they're gonna be. You know what? Here's another thing too. This is the reason why this stuff kind of annoys me is that the way that headlines and the way that marijuana is talked about in places where it's not legal, like here in South Carolina, versus how like Mills has just like 7.63 grams of marijuana. But if we were talking about it's amazing to me how we can talk about it like this. Oh, it's 7 grams of marijuana. But if we were in a different place in a dispensary, that 7 grams of marijuana would have so much more life to it, right? You'd know how the cannabinoid makeup of that marijuana, like what strain. How come they don't tell us that? This is more of a funny note, but still, like what they don't tell us the strain of the marijuana. What was this person going for? Were they going for some sativa, some indica? We don't know, but of course that doesn't matter here, right? Because
Right.
they
Because we don't even know if
devalue.
it was marijuana or if it was hemp.
Yeah, we don't
We
know,
don't know. But we do
and they
know.
don't know.
We do know that now because they had this plant matter, they're concerned that they had 36 rounds of 40 caliber ammunition.
Yeah, and
I mean,
here's
fuck their Second Amendment right to be
right,
protect themselves and to be armed.
right, right. He was cited for traffic and drug violations and taken into custody for his active warrant. Right now, here's that's a whole nother thing that I could go into. But here's my thing: what? Why did marijuana have to be mentioned in this headline? Like, if we really think about this, and there was another one from the state. I didn't get to pull this one up, but I sent this to our private team chat about I don't know, this was like last Saturday or something, Scott, I think. And it was this article that's kind of similar to this, where a person got, pulled over, and they got to a place where they finally like reveal what all was in the person's like car, and marijuana was just like one of many things. Like this person got pulled over, like another, that's what it was. The headline was talking about the smell of marijuana and like showing how the smell of marijuana like eventually led to this arrest. But when you think about it, you're like, no, bro, like bro had all kinds of hard drugs up in the in the trunk of the car
Yeah,
along with
and
weapons.
this particular story, there apparently, if he had a prior violation or probation or parole, he may not, because it says a active weapons law violation.
Right.
So apparently, he's not allowed to have a gun and or the ammunition to a gun, and that's
And
yeah.
that's something he's not allowed to do. But this like, why did marijuana have to be thrown into?
But why
Does
did
that
cannabis
really
have to be
matter?
brought into it?
Or
You
did
know.
the cannabis really matter in this case, or does it make for a better story? Like, if
Well, it always
anything,
makes it if for you know I think it always makes for them a better story because they're able to still demonize cannabis use. You
right?
know, here's another one of
Exactly.
those cannabis users that are in trouble. They don't tell the story of
There
the
you go.
doctor that saved the life of the little boy, and the doctor happens to be a cannabis consumer. Or they don't happen to tell the story of the fireman who saved some children from the burning building, and although
Right.
he's not allowed to
Right.
by law, secretly
Right.
uses or legally uses cannabinoids, maybe use CBD and hemp products. They don't tell those stories in the news very often.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. There is exactly, Scott. Exactly. I'm trying to pull up the story here so I can show you all what I'm talking about. It was the headline said deputy. I think this is the one. Yeah. Yes, this is the one. Let me go ahead and slide this over to y'all real quick. I was supposed to talk about cannabinoids, but I got so doggone fired up about this element right here. So this is coming from the state. Deputy smells marijuana coming from truck leading to Midlands chase. Y'all, I'm just gonna scroll down to what this man had in his truck, and I want to know why marijuana was the only thing that ended up in the doggone headline. Right? This says deputies found a large sum of money in clear plastic bag containing what appeared to be cocaine, and both the gun as well as some of the suspected marijuana were recovered along the path of the chase. Deputies also found a clear bag containing what appeared to be crack cocaine in search of the truck. Okay, crack cocaine, cocaine, guns. Let's read that headline again. Deputy smells marijuana coming from the truck. This is what I'm talking about. This is a play off of like this isn't. This is a play off of the senses. This is a play off of like, what's the attention grabber, and apparently we have to continuously put name drop marijuana in headlines. This is why I say it's very screwed up how like the media training, if you will, for the masses on this thing is why is marijuana being said in here? And once again, we're in a situation where the smell of marijuana, like if these things need to be taken off the streets, you got crack cocaine in here, things of that nature. Like, well, then how come that wasn't in the headline? Why wasn't that? And then you say suspected marijuana.
You can't smell that.
Like
and,
marijuana ain't even trying to hide itself. So it's just very, and I agree that excuse needs to be completely taken away from the cops. I think so too. I mean, I'm just saying. Okay, I'm gonna it's 7:54. So I am going to just tell you guys. I'll just focus on one, and I'll say, well, I'll just share some kind of top facts or something about CBG and something interesting about CBN. But I'll spend a little bit more time.
Before you go, let's do our answer to the first question that we never answered.
Oh, dear God.
We got so wrapped up in it, we're not going to have time for the second one tonight. But let's go ahead and answer our first question.
Let's skip the cannabinoids.
40 points. What 2019 award show gave nominees cannabis-infused chocolate truffles as a gift? Grammys, Oscars, Academy Awards, or the Emmys? The answer on that is the Oscars.
Wow.
The Oscars. We'll go ahead and visit those other questions in another time.
Yeah. I don't even have
yeah,
time.
if you don't mind, kind of, we'll go ahead and touch on the CBG, CBN, that kind of stuff soon. But
Yes.
with our final minutes here, we got like 5 minutes left. I do want to try and touch on a couple of the upcoming things that we've got
Let's
planned.
do it.
Um, and now I'm totally unprepared, but let me go ahead and start by doing this.
Completely fine. Thanks for listening to our rants, y'all. Also, when we were talking about, I just want to quickly say that Taco said that's just a weekend at my house. Or were you referring to when we were talking about how many
The
pounds that
seven, the
were?
7 grams, I think, was just a week.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember. All right.
All right. Now, I do want to kind of mention everybody our coming events page. Please visit our coming events page. Not everything has been finalized or updated, so not everything is here yet. But I do want to let you know, remind you that our Krispy Kreme digital dozen fundraiser is coming. I believe they've already been shipped. I have some signs coming. So if you happen to live near a Krispy Kreme donut shop, and you would like some signs, one or two signs, and you're going to go out on the street next to this this Krispy Kreme donut shop, and let people see the sign and scan the QR code on it to take them to buy our digital dozen and support our cause. Contact us, and we will get those signs out to you as soon as they come into us. Again, that event runs the entire month of April. So again, if you live near a Krispy Kreme, and you're willing to do a little bit of pounding on the sidewalk and hold up one of our signs and promote it to your local community, definitely reach out to us, and we will get you some promo material. We'll get you the sign. We'll get you some brochures to hand out. Also, I'm going to mention another month long here. Our friends at the Not Burger Pub in Somerville, South Carolina, are doing a month long fundraiser for us as well through the month of April. Generally, they will have a specialty burger. You buy that, and they donate a couple of bucks, and 2 specialty drinks. Usually one a mixer and one a beer. And I'm told they have a couple of other things coming up. As a matter of fact, we did post one on our Facebook about a Let Them Egg Your House. They do an Easter special where they all kind of their Easter bunnies will come in and decorate some Easter eggs in your front yard, and all you need to do is make a donation to the charity of the month, which for that month will be us. So, if you live in the Somerville area, keep that in mind. Also on 420, that's a Thursday, we will be at the Not Burger Pub in Somerville. We will be doing our 420 evening event there from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. We invite you to stop on out. Hopefully we'll have some giveaways and some drawings and prizes like we did last year. The more the merrier. Tell your friends, share the word. Again, if you live in Somerville area, Ladson, Goose Creek, come on out. Join us, pack the house. I also want to mention one other thing about their month-long event. On the 1st and 2nd of April, it coincides with the Flowertown Festival, which is within walking distance of the Not Burger Pub. I know my wife and I will be up there one of those 2 days, and we'll go into the Not and we'll get ourselves a bite to eat and a specialty drink and make a little donation to NORML, and then we'll walk on down to the Flowertown Festival and walk off whatever alcohol we happen to drink before coming back, getting in the car and heading on home. So keep that in mind if you're down there for the Flowertown Festival at all. Stop into the Not Burger Pub. Also in April, we have the Bohemian Bull on James Island has a 420 market on Saturday the 22nd. We'll be there from about noon to 4. We'll have our booth set up. We will have some giveaways, and we will be hopefully have some t-shirts and stuff available if you want to purchase a t-shirt. Not necessarily on this list, but we have 2 others kind of in the works in April. One is supposed to be on 4/18 at the Village Idiot Pizza on Whaley Street, I believe it is, Columbia, South Carolina. Keep an eye out here soon for details. We're just trying to finish up some paperwork with them to confirm everything. Also for the 20th, after we're done at the Bohemian Bull, we will be over at, let me get this right. not only are we going to be up at the Not Burger Pub, but we're also going to have a crew over at Low Tide Brewing on Johns Island. So we've got 2 events planned. Still working out those Johns Island details, but again, if you know the area, you know where Low Tide Brewing is. We have had events there before, so keep an eye on this this coming events page for that kind of stuff. Um, I don't know what else. I'm not totally unprepared, but I'm not going to go into events past April at this point on our coming event stuff. So let me just kind of close out of that one. And I did want to talk about this because Vaughn sort of brought it up in our conversation. We are refreshing our search for your input on our Vilified podcast that we're looking to put together. We are refining our start on that to asking for people that have had arrest for simple cannabis possession. You'll see up here the interview series will begin with people that are arrested for simple cannabis possession. Keep an eye out on our website here because I'm in the process of working out a questionnaire form for people to kind of start filling out and giving us the basics of their story before we actually go into the interview process. Alongside of that, I'm hoping to, if people may have trouble filling out the form, they may be able to read the form and then video their responses and then email us their video if that's easier for them. But we'll go ahead and try and find some options for you to submit your stories on our Vilified podcast. Because we want to get those stories out there. As VP said, it's hard to find those stories. Nobody really documents this stuff. What's going on in South Carolina, or it's hard to find the documentation.
Right.
So, all right, 801, last but not least, let me just say, don't forget to visit us here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Check out our social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on that notification bell so that when you see us get ready to podcast, you will get a notification. That's kind of it for me. VP, what you got to say as we sign out tonight?
That's it. Always appreciate y'all listening to us rant, rave, and educate and soapbox and all the things. Really appreciate the support. But Scott, you said it best.
All righty. We will see you all again next week. Thanks for being here. Have a good night, y'all. Bye-bye.